Hello and welcome to the Game Academy. My name is Joshua Archer and I'm here to teach you how to make a decorative laser sword hilt. It's going to be something you can wear on your belt, has a flashlight in it so it'll shine out some cool stuff out the front. Unfortunately, we don't have the technology for a real laser sword. That'd be pretty nifty, but also probably not very safe. So let's get to it and make our laser sword hilts. So the first thing we want to do is make sure we have all the parts that came in the kit and that we're not missing anything. I'm including some gloves. I'm not going to be wearing them today because these are too small for my hands and I'm being careful. This is the main body of your laser sword hilt. These are several fittings that screw onto the top of the laser sword hilt. There's a rubber gasket, and those are for decoration. This is a side unit that we're going to be gluing this little last bead into, and it'll go onto the side. This is the beautiful little gem we're going to put on the top of our laser sword. This is different tapes that are going to be necessary for what we're doing, and this is a lanyard that we'll use to put on our belt, the flashlight that we'll use to light it up. This is some epoxy. We're going to use a small amount of this, and make sure you have some piece of paper that you can use to put the epoxy on so you can stir it up. The front just breaks right off and it's exposed. You just use it like a syringe. You don't squeeze that much, a tiny bit. Make sure you're holding it right, and maybe put out a dab the size of a quarter or a nickel, and close the lid back on that, set it aside, and use one of the stirrers that we include. And you're going to mix all that stuff up really good. You want to get it fully mixed up. Once it's mixed up, we'll be able to use it. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to glue the unit on top, but before that, we want to put all the other pieces in play. So these can go on in any order, any direction. The only thing that's necessary is to put the flat piece on top, because that's going to be the surface on which we can glue the gem. This gasket goes on a little rough. You can push it on and you can screw it on, and then here's that top I was telling you about, and it goes all the way down to when it goes flush, and then you can bring everything back up, and so it covers up the side slot. It looks pretty good. Now I'm going to put some glue on the inside where the gem meets the top. This is not a very easy job to do. When I was doing this, I had to apply glue a couple of times. So maybe just put on a little bit on the sides, and you'll see that when we put the gem in place, it will mark it. Put like a bit of glue on the gem, and then you can reinforce that by putting glue directly on the gem where it's going to meet that. You can use some paper towel to clean up any mess that you make. Also, rubbing alcohol works really well to get this epoxy stuff off completely. While it's still wet, you can use that alcohol, probably 10 minutes or so. Now you see I put that gem in play like that, but it doesn't really seat all that well. So I'm going to go ahead and use some more of the glue and go ahead and add it right on the gem where it was touching and it left a little bit of glue. Okay. Just spread it out there, make it so it's got a nice surface. There are facets, so it's not going to touch everywhere, but trust me, once that's in there and it sets for a while, it will stay in place. Next, we're going to glue the little glass bead. It's kind of neat, looks kind of like a swirly eye or something like that. And we're going to put it on the inside. There were some washes in there I took out. Put it on the inside, a little glue on the inside of this along the edge. And make sure it's nice and spread out everywhere evenly. Doesn't take a whole bunch, just enough that when you put the bead in, that it'll seat. Now you can put that bead in either round side out or flat side out, depending on your preference. I like it putting it round side out. While that is drying, if you do have it with the round side out, that's with the flat side initially. I think I take it out and turn it around. It's going to not rest easily. wipe off any excess. So you're going to want to find a place to set this down. I had like a little ice cube tray or something like that. You can see me looking for where to put it down. And you can find a place to set it down. Paper towel doesn't work very well. You can see at this point, I had this little tiny ice cube tray that I set down. What's nice is that what you need actually is something that's going to hold up the sides of that little screw-on unit without touching the bottom. So could be a bottle cap or anything that's going to hold that in place. So while we're letting the glue dry on the gems that we've put in, next thing we're going to do is prepare the flashlight. We've got a little mini flashlight that's in the kit. And we've got some grip tape. This is sort of hockey tape, and it will wrap around the outside of the flashlight and allow it to fit snugly in the bottom of your laser sword hilt in a way that will allow you to remove it and exchange the batteries if the batteries run out. So I'm taking the button and cover off for a moment just so I can line this tape up with the edge but not interfere with where the lid, the cap comes on and off. So I put about 2.5 to 3 wraps around the flashlight here. You're going to know that it's right when it fits snugly. Depending on how far down you want it to go, you can have it fit snugly early on its insertion and then kind of stop, or you can make it so it slides all the way in. I left mine so that it came up quite a distance, and you'll see why, because it allows you to press the button when we put the end cap on. Alright, so that was about 2 to 3 wraps, right? Put the cap back on, and I'm going to go ahead and insert it into the bottom. You can see it kind of like goes in maybe, I don't know, 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, and then it stops. And that's about good fit for what I'm trying to do with it. The next thing we're going to do is take that same grip tape and we're going to wrap the bottom of the hilt so that the end cap or the pommel piece will fit snugly on the end. I use about 23, 24 inches of tape here. I'm measuring it out. This is a 1-inch grid on my table here, so I'm able to count it out, make sure that I've got exactly 23, 24, something like that. And that seems to be about the right number of wrappings to get the bottom piece to fit over completely, but pretty snugly. I'll go ahead and cut that. Use some scissors. I'm using a box knife. It's probably not the safest, especially since this box knife is dull. And you can see that gem has not set completely yet, so I'm going to probably put a piece of tape over the front of that to hold it in place. Or if you're patient, you can let it dry completely before you go on to the next steps. So here I am wrapping it around the bottom here. I don't know how many wraps that is, maybe 5 or 6 wraps. I won't make you watch all of it. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put that side piece with the gem glued in place back on the side here. If you haven't guessed, this whole unit actually comes from Home Depot. It is a sink assembly. It's nice and chromed, it's got a nice handle, and it works perfect for this project. So here I am turning on the flashlight. You can see it glowing on both the front gem. I put that tape on there to hold it in place, and the side gem. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put the pommel piece on. Now the pommel piece has a couple of pre-drilled holes. You can see I'm pointing them out here. That's going to be for feeding the lanyard through. We want to make sure those holes are on the outside or the farthest away from the front. Now this slides on pretty well. It's a little bit loose, and that's good because what I want to do now is put a little bit more glue. Actually, it looks like we needed to mix some more glue up here. We're going to put glue on that tape, and a thin coating of it, not a whole bunch, but enough to saturate the tape and be a good foundation, so that when we slide that pommel piece on, it will glue and dry and stay on there, so that when we're wearing it on our belts, it doesn't come flying off. So you can see here, I'm just going to go ahead and put a liberal amount. You're going to have to pick that up so it doesn't get on the table there. And just smoothing it out and it absorbs a little bit into that tape, and then there's a little excess on the outside. When we put the pommel on, it's going to squish whatever glue is excess out towards the inside of the handle, and we'll be able to wipe that up with a piece of paper towel, or as I said, using some alcohol or alcohol wipes is probably a good idea. So I'm rotating it as I'm putting it on there and slowly feeding it up until it's even with that tape. See there? Now it's still wet, so you can't set it down on its end, or else it'll slide up farther. So just wipe up the glue and set it aside so that it can dry. Next, what we're going to do is put the this is a sort of grip tape that they use on tennis rackets. It's got a slick side and a rough side, and the slick side has a layer of film or plastic that's covering it. It's not adhesive. It just keeps the surface of it clean. This stuff tends to get a little spongy and dirty after a while, but it is for comfort, and in our case, it just looks really cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to unwrap the whole roll here. You see I'm testing the different sides, and then we'll be able to wrap it on there. Now, you'll see that the piece of tape tapers, and it's got a little sticky end piece. That's going to be the part that you stick down at the very end to secure your tape in place. Since there's actually no adhesive on it, you're going to want to wrap it so that it holds. Especially this beginning part, it's going to have to wrap over itself to hold it in place. You can see, otherwise it flops. You're going to put the rough side in, you're going to put the slick side out. It takes a little getting used to here, a little hang. And then you're going to go ahead and wrap it around a couple of times at the top, and then you're going to start to wrap it slightly at an angle and have it overlap itself as you creep down the handle. So you'll end up with rings or layers of the tape, providing a decorative and nice feeling handle when you're ready to put it on your belt there. Starting to come along here with this accent piece. This really makes the whole thing come to life and believable. It no longer looks like a sink drain. It now looks like a laser sword handle. This laser sword can be related to certain game properties or movie properties. I think you know which ones we're talking about. There are reasons why I can't necessarily tell you, just for legal reasons. I don't want to infringe on anybody's copyrights, but let's just say if you are playing camp this week, there are certain characters that make use of certain types of laser swords, and this can be a pretend version of that, or if there's a certain movie franchise that you enjoy, there are characters that use those as well. So you can see it's lit, it's glowing from both gems. The last thing that we want to do, you see the flashlight comes in and out too, so you can replace those batteries when necessary. Last thing we're going to do is we're going to put that lanyard in place. Now, in order to get the lanyard in, you're going to have to pull the flashlight out. You can see I'm trying to fit it in there. There's no room, so just get that flashlight out of there. And you're going to just fold in the corner of it, pull it through, go out the other side, pull it through, and then what you can do is you can pull that piece out of the way so that flashlight will be able to fit back in place without a problem. You see now I'm fitting it back in play, and once that's secure, you'll be able to pull the lanyard tight. You want to tighten it up, slip it through the other end, and make that even up so that it'll fit on your belt without hanging too much to one side or the other. You can just adjust it how you need to. Pull it tight, and then when it's tight and it's ready to go, you can take the lanyard, and it's got a clip on one end, and you'll be able to clip it to itself. So you can slip that through a belt loop and then clip it to itself, and it'll hang on your belt. And then to take it off, you just unclip that clip and you can play with it. It works like a flashlight, probably not very bright, but at nighttime it gives off a pretty cool glow. So we are done that is our Laserzord project. Thank you for joining us at the craft workshop, and we're looking forward to seeing you in future camps, programs, year-round, and of course other craft workshops.